Behavior is the way an individual acts regularly, consistently, and habitually. It is the way an individual consciously and deliberately acts over a period of time that becomes part of him. Different people have different behaviors. How an individual behaves is one of the things that makes him different from others. Your behavior determines what you accomplish in life. Consequently, your behavior determines your destiny in life. Though people can correctly predict the behaviors of some people in some situations, they are usually not interested in the factors that condition other people's behaviors. Besides, though we may know and understand ourselves to a very reasonable extent as adults, and consequently have the capacity to correctly predict what we can do in different situations, we are hardly bothered by the factors that shape our behaviors. Every human being should understand the reasons he behaves the way he does, because some people have wrong behaviors that seem right in their reasoning. As a result, they use their wrong behaviors as the standards for judging other people's behaviors. Consequently, it is very imperative to ask the question, why do people behave the way they do? Or better, why do I behave or act the way I do? Though human behavior is vulnerable to the influence of many factors, the most important factors that determine the way you behave are your experiences. These consist of what you hear and what you see. What you hear and what you see commence their influences on your life by affecting how you think or reason. In other words, they commence their operations in your life by influencing your mind. Every conscious and deliberate human behavior is determined by the way an individual thinks. But reasoning is one of the functions of the mind. Hence, anything that affects your mind also affects how you reason, and anything that affects your thoughts also affects your actions. Thoughts make human actions conscious and deliberate. This is the reason you should be very mindful of what you see and what you hear. Your behaviors are under the influence of your experiences. There are 4 basic factors that are most important in determining how you behave. They are as follows. 1. Your family background. Family background plays a key role in shaping people's behaviors. This is the reason people from the same family background usually have some behaviors in common. The influence of family training on a child is so strong that it determines the success of every other training he receives anywhere. The family is the first school and the first religious house of every child. By this token, parents and guardians are the first teachers, pastors, mentors, and trainers of every child. Let me illustrate this with some practical examples. Have you observed that people who were nurtured in families with happy marriages usually become good spouses as adults? The type of marriage a child experiences in the family as he grows up has the capacity to shape his attitudes to marriage when he becomes an adult. This is why men whose mothers maltreated their fathers while they were growing up usually become dictators over their wives because they do not want to give any woman the chance to maltreat them as their mothers did to their fathers. Women whose fathers maltreated their mothers are also usually unsubmissive to their husbands because they resolve not to give any man the chance to maltreat them as their fathers did to their mothers. Such people hardly have good marriages as adults, even when they are very fortunate to have the best spouses. The reason is that most of them go into marriage with negative and destructive mindsets because their minds are deformed by their past experiences. This is the reason family background is one of the most important factors that are considered in marriage in a culture like mine. 2. Your religious affiliation. The influence of religion on many people is so powerful that they are willing to die for their faith. Many people died because of their religious beliefs. Many people are also very willing to die because of their religious beliefs. Besides, While some people have killed because of their religious beliefs, some people are still very willing to waste the precious lives of others because of their religions. Your religious affiliation is one of the strongest factors that determine how you think and behave. For instance, the questions, is polygamous marriage good or bad? Is contraceptive good or bad? Can hardly be answered by most people without the influence of their religions. 3. Your cultural background. Culture is a regular and consistent pattern of life among a people. Different ethnic groups have different cultural beliefs and practices. Cultural beliefs and practices are usually unconsciously internalized from childhood as people are indoctrinated in them early enough in life. This is the reason the cultural environment a child was nurtured exerts enormous influences on how he reasons, speaks, and acts. The mind is nurtured by the cultural experiences it is immersed in over a period of time because it shapes people's beliefs, behaviors, and attitudes. This is the reason people are naturally the products of their culture. As a matter of fact, partaking in a culture is one of the marks of membership to the cultural group. It has been established by scholars that cultural beliefs and practices are not innate as they are learned. 4. Your exposure. People's behaviors are also under the influence of their exposure. This includes formal educational training, places they have visited, people they have interacted with, etc. These factors jointly influence human behavior to a very reasonable extent. The above factors exert enormous influences on your behavior. It was earlier noted that though human behavior is vulnerable to the influence of many factors, the most important factors that determine the way you behave are your experiences. It was further noted that these essentially consist of what you hear and what you see. But what you hear and what you see are processed in your mind before they influence your actions, and the outcome of the processing determines their influence on your behavior. The point being argued is that every rational human being has the innate capacity to resist the influence of some things he hears or sees. This is the reason some things you see or hear will not influence your behavior, especially when they will not be helpful to you. You have the capacity to rationalize your experiences, discard the ones that will be helpless to you, and also perform the actions that will be helpful to you. For instance, though the type of marriage you saw among your parents or guardians while growing up as a child has the capacity to shape your opinion on marriage and consequently your attitudes to your spouse during your adulthood, you also have the innate capacity to resist the influence, especially when it will be negative on your life. I invite you to rise above family, religious, and cultural influences that are not helpful to you or your society and embrace those that are. You should have an independent judgment on your experiences that is uninfluenced by traditions and conventional beliefs and practices before you permit them to influence your behavior. World changers rise above traditions and social consciousness and condemn some beliefs and practices in their societies long before others see the rationale of their crusades. What is conventional is not always right. But there is an important question I want to ask you. How do you differentiate between behaviors that are right and those that are wrong? How do you differentiate between the behaviors you should embrace and those you should reject? You should use the golden rule as the standard for ascertaining the behaviors that are acceptable or not. In other words, will you be happy if other people behave the way you do? Will you be happy if other people treat you the way you treat them? Your response to these questions should be the standard for the choice of the actions you perform. It should also be your standard for ascertaining the rightness or wrongness of your behavior. The world will become a better place for everyone if our actions are always guided by the golden rule. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you should click the subscription link below if you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel. You should also turn on the notification bell so that you will be informed whenever a new video is published in this channel. I hope to meet you again in the next video. Thanks for watching.